So good afternoon. Here we are at the Toronto location, and today we're going to talk about our blenders. We have the Blendtec here and the Vitamix, and we're going to make something with the Blendtec. It's a green smoothie, and we're going to make a raw soup with the Vitamix. Remember, these are blenders. They're meant for a liquid, not necessarily very good for using if you have something that's really thick. It's more of a liquid that you're using when you do the blender. You can do some other things with it, but I find that it's really a machine for blending liquids. Okay, so what we're going to make today is a green smoothie, but before we do that, I'd just like to tell you some of the features of the Blendtec that make it a pretty special blender. It has an on-off switch that once you turn it on, it has a little screen here, and on the screen it says Blendtec Home. And there's a cycle menu, so you have to press your cycle menu, and you can do beverages, you can do drinks with ice, or you can do whole foods, like a soup, or you can do food processing, multi-use, and then it's back to beverages. Now when you're in that beverage mode, then you can press this button up or down, and the first one is smoothie, and that's what we're going to use today, but let's just see what else they have besides smoothies. Hot chocolate, we would use carrot powder, but we could make a really nice smooth drink in the wintertime with that in it. Full strength drinks, milkshakes, which is basically a nice smoothie as well. And then we're back to smoothies, small smoothies and large smoothies. But if we went on to the others, the next one, which is drinks, whole foods, well, for instance, a light juice, a soup, and that's what we would use if we were going to be making this raw soup. So, I'm just going to turn it off and turn it back on again to get it back to the beginning. And I'm going to pick the cycle beverages, and then I'm going to pick smoothies. And it has a start and stop button for wanting to start and stop. And it has other pulses and different speeds, and you can read your manual to see all the different things it's going to do for you. But most of the time you're going to probably use it for what I've just suggested, which is making your smoothies. Now we also have a very small blender, and we talked about that a few videos ago, and it's our little personal blender, and it's for when I want to make a smoothie just for me. But this is what I use every morning when I make our mid-morning green smoothie for my husband and I. And we use this particular jug so that it's going to make us enough for each of us to have a very large glass, because we want to make sure that we're drinking enough of our green smoothies. And it's a great way to get greens into your diet as well. And this is where I put my fruit for the day, because we don't want to eat a lot of fruits, and we put it into the smoothie to make the smoothie taste sweet. And I don't use anything other than water in my smoothies, because we don't need to use any of the milks. This is a raw drink, and I want to keep it as raw as possible, so I'm not going to use any of the processed milks in this smoothie. So we're going to start off by taking the lid off, and the lid has a top that you can take off so that you could actually feed things in once it's going, but always make sure that you have your lid on really tight when you first start. Okay, so we have our banana, and we froze our banana overnight. So it was a raw banana yesterday, and today it's still raw, but it's frozen, so it's going to be a bit cool. And we could use just ripe bananas, and you could use ice if you don't have something frozen, and that'll make it nice and cold and sort of like a milkshake consistency if you use the ice or the frozen. And here we have some frozen mango, and we're going to make this a green smoothie. So it depends on who I'm making it for, but usually I want to make sure that I'm using some kind of a yellow fruit like mango or peaches or pineapple, so that they're not going to be turned off by this drink I'm giving them, because I'm adding greens to it, and that's going to make a really nice color. Whereas if I had raspberries or blueberries, I'm going to have a really slight, sort of a dark brown color of smoothie. And even though I know it tastes good, it doesn't look all that nice. So we're going to add a handful of, this is just enough for Jessica and I to have, so we're going to add some spinach to it. And I'm going to add a little bit of ginger root as well that I've sliced really, really thin. And we're going to put the ginger in both of our things today, so I'll just move that over there. And then to thicken it up a bit, to make it more substantial, I'm going to add a scoop of beef flax D, and you want to add, depending on how many people you're serving, but 1 tablespoon per person is what I normally suggest. You can put 2 tablespoons in. It's going to be thicker the more you add. And then we have our protein, essential protein, and this is great to add more protein to your smoothie. And we're not making a big smoothie right now, so we're just going to add half of a scoop. This is just enough for us for the moment. And the protein, essential protein is fabulous because it's got all kinds of wonderful organic plant proteins. Like it's got pea protein, chia seed, hemp seed, pumpkin seed, coconut flour, rice protein, sunflower. So there's a lot of really good protein in that as well. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that we could add our superfood to it, and we will today, especially because it's a green smoothie. And I really like the fact that the superfood's available to us now, because sometimes we can't get very many good greens during our winter months, and we're coming up to the time of year when it's going to be harder and harder to get really good organic greens. Well, that's what the superfood is for, to add to your smoothie or other things that you're making. Okay. And then we're going to add some water. And my rule of thumb is you add half of what you have in here. So we want to add enough water so that it's up to half the height of all the other things. That's what I start at. And then I add more water depending on whether or not I want it thick or if I want it thinner. So we're going to press our... We want to put it on a second time because I want this to be a real good smoothie. And this is when I look to see what kind of consistency I have. Do I need to add more water? And I think I'm going to add a little tiny bit more water because it is quite thick. And this will just make sure it's nice and smooth. And you'll notice with the Blendtec that I didn't have to do any scraping down or anything because it goes high, low on its own. So it's pushing the stuff around for us to make it really nice and smooth. Okay, so you do notice that this is quite noisy, and that's one of the things that's a problem with this particular, any of the powerful blenders, is they do make quite a bit of noise. So we've got a nice green smoothie here. Okay, so we're just going to pour this into our glasses, and we have a beautiful, wonderful mid-morning or breakfast drink, mid-afternoon, a lovely green smoothie that's just so yummy. So cheers. What a lovely taste. So I just wanted to add a couple of comments about the Blendtec. Right now we have the black Blendtec with the larger wide mouth, it's called Wild Side 3-quart jug, and it's the one that comes in with the black. But we do have the base in white, and the base has this size of jug, which is a 2-quart and 4 cups, and it's a little bit smaller, and I think an awful lot of people would like that if they're just 1 or 2 people, because they don't really need the extra size. And the white one is on sale at a slightly reduced price because it's a smaller jug. So we still have some that the 2-quart, but from now on they'll come in with the 3-quart Wild Side jug. So we're going to leave the Blendtec alone for a moment, and we're going to move on to using the Vitamix. Now the Vitamix is a well-known blender that people have had for years and years and years. And one of the nice things about the Blendtec and the Vitamix, the two of them, is they're very powerful blenders. And they both have about the same horsepower, they have the same strength as far as that's concerned. And I find that they both work about the same. But the Blendtec is you have to actually press the buttons, and you have to depend on the electronics to find what you want. The Vitamix is a great blender because you just turn it on and you can turn it up higher, or you can turn it up to what they call turbo, and then that's all you have to do. But you do have to turn your little wand here to keep things moving, but it's a fabulous tool with this lid that snaps on and your tamper. You want to be careful. Don't store your tamper in this Vitamix like this, because I don't know how many times we've had customers call us and say, I need a new tamper, and obviously it's happened here as well. They store it like this, and then when they go to turn it on, they forget that this is in it, and it just throws it and cuts the bottom. So we've had to replace a number of these tampers. So be careful to store it like this. So when you do take the lid off, it comes off with it, and you're not going to make a mistake and turn it on and destroy your tamper. Now, this particular blender, you'll see from the picture if Jessica wants to go in closer, it has a center dial that you can turn it on low, and when you turn it on low, you're going to be at a very low speed, and I always suggest that you start with your dial set right back at 0. So you turn it on and it's going to be very, very slow, and then you can turn it up and make it go faster as you're working. And you never want to turn any blender on unless the lid is on tight. And you want to, you notice with the other one, I actually held the lid as it starts because it does have quite a powerful blade, and the air suction sometimes blows things up. And we've actually had a few times when our ceiling has had some wonderful smoothie or whatever on it. You don't want that to happen in your kitchen. It makes a great mess. Another thing you want to be careful about with both of these blenders, or any blender you have, is when you turn it off, you let the blade stop before you pull it off. Because this thing here and this thing down here, these are called the clutch. And you will break the clutch if you pull it off while the blade's still spinning. Because it's spinning and you're pulling at the same time, it doesn't do very well for your blender. These both have long warranties. The Blendtec is a 7-year warranty, and I believe this one is a 7-year warranty as well. And they're really good warranties, but they will not replace parts if you keep breaking the same thing. They'll get a little bit suspicious that maybe you're not doing something right. So treat your blenders with respect, and they will last a long time. So what are we going to make with this? Well, we're going to make a raw soup. And what's nice about making a raw soup and the raw smoothie is the enzymes are still intact. So we get lots of wonderful nutrient value from the food because we haven't cooked it, we haven't killed the enzymes and destroyed some of the fiber and all the rest of the things. So this is a whole food where we're taking the food and we're blending it with some water, so we're keeping everything together, the fiber and all the liquid and the all the nutrients as well. So we're going to make a raw squash soup, and this particular time I used, my recipe is, and you'll see at the end of the video, it is a butternut squash, because I do find that it has a nice mild flavor. Okay, so we have the squash. We're going to add an apple, and it's about half a cup of apple to a cup of squash to get a nice flavor. And we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of white onion, and be cautious as to what kind of onion you use. If you like it really spicy, a Spanish onion is nice, but the white onions, a sweet white onion, is a milder flavor, and it actually turns out quite nice. And like any soup that I make, I always start with my basics: my onion, my celery, and my garlic. Well, I'm going to do that even with this soup, okay? So I've got my onion, my garlic, and I've already crushed my garlic. And because this is a squash soup, I'm going to add some ginger to it as well. And then I'm going to add some spice, and I'm going to add some cinnamon. And I'm going to add some cloves. And if you have nutmeg, you could add nutmeg. I'm going to add some allspice. And I thought to make this a little bit different, maybe I'd add a little bit of coriander, ground coriander. It has a nice flavor to it as well. Okay, and we're going to add a little tiny bit of curry to it. So you can experiment and use different spices that you like for your soups. And then we're going to add our water. And I'm going to start with the same policy as I did with my smoothie, about half full of water, and then we can adjust it for what we want for later on. So again, you want to make sure that your lid is on really tight, and you're going to push your topper down, and we're going to turn it on, and then it's going to start spinning. Okay, so again, it's rather noisy. If you're using this a lot, you might be wise to wear earplugs, but it takes a few minutes to get it. You can just see a little bit of steam coming off of it, so it's probably at 95, 98 degrees, so it hasn't killed the enzymes. And then we're going to take it and we're going to put it into this, oh, smells absolutely wonderful, into this bowl. And then we're going to sprinkle with a little tiny bit of cinnamon. And there we go. Just go on some toast. We got a beautiful warm fall and winter soup that's still living and just a wonderful taste. Absolutely wonderful. So here we are with two really nice blenders that are powerful enough to make these wonderful smooth drinks and different foods that we can have. And another thing you can do is you can also blend all your vegetables together and use a strainer, a cheesecloth or a nut milk maker bag, and you can pour your vegetable V8, I guess you would call it, through that and strain off the fiber, and you're going to have something that's the same quality as some of the juices that we can make using juicers as well. So you can use this for many different things. So have a good winter, trying your green smoothies to give you those wonderful greens every day and some really wonderful raw soups. And check the recipes at the end of the video, because we do have some wonderful recipes for you. And thank you very much from Healthy Acres, Canada.